Hi, and welcome to this episode of Keen Minds. This is our 67th episode, a Season 6 wish list. I'm Jen, aka Takata Saiko.
And I'm Tessa.
And welcome back!
And we are very excited!
We're almost here. I think we, honestly, especially me, because I was a little more hurt after last season.
I was angrier.
Yeah,
Not sure that loyalty could be expected. Something like it.
Hurt, potentially angry, a lot better. But, I needed some time off. So the hiatus was good for me. And I also feel like I've had a bit of a learning curve because I've been writing my own scripts for a spec show that I'm working on. So even though...
Good ones.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Tessa's been reading them. She's been looking at them for me. And so I feel like I've had a little bit of a learning curve, and hopefully as I get each step further in, pitching these and that sort of thing, I will continue to have a learning curve with it. But certain things that I've complained about over the years with the writing, it's like, no wonder they did such and such. They didn't have time. They've got 60 pages to write this in, and then they have to, knock it back to, 47 or so? I mean, by the time, if you've got a minute per page estimate there. And so that just writing these episodes and working at that has been a real experience. And once again, it's thrown in my face that there is so much that I don't know about the industry.
So I think that probably we should say that there is a tiny little bit of an apology there to the writers, just a tiny bit.
There's more understanding. I always said that the reason I was so upset is because I know how good they are. I stand by that. Mm-hmm. I think they're excellent. I think they have been excellent since season 1. Do I agree with the direction?
No, the killing of Tom was like,
that will always, and once again, as we discussed last year, it's gonna remain. The ending will be a deciding factor for me. There could be an ending here, and I hope there's an ending that makes me go, all right, it all makes sense. Whether I like it, whether I don't, I just need it to make sense. Mm-hmm. And that is going to lead in very well to, this is our season 6 wish list. This is what we want, what we're, well, not just wish list, but wish list, what
fear
we're...
list.
Fear list.
It's the fear list, the wish list, and the, oh, please don't do wish list.
For the sake of everything, don't do this. There's a couple of those. And so we opened it up to our listeners, and you guys answered so well. Thank you. We had a lot of response on this. It was really exciting. And so do you want to just switch off and you read one, I'll read one, and kind of discuss?
Yep.
Why don't you start?
So the first use, I don't know how to say... Misha 1981, I guess. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your handle. She wants to finish Tom's story. She wants more on Agnes and decent answers. And she qualified the decent answers by answers that are not possibly can mean 3 things at once.
That's fair.
I think that is very fair. I think that the Tom story, she's a very big fan and a fan of the podcast. And I think that's fair to say that most of Tom fans wants to finish that story. I think that we all feel that we are owed that we are owed to understand because there were so many questions that are still pending.
And as a huge Tom Keen fan, not that that's ever been in question, I would love more on Tom's story. I don't expect it because, once again, there is a limited amount of time. And, we're looking at the last season, maybe a little bit more on a season 7. It just depends on what they can wrangle out at the end of 6. And so
let me put it to you. You don't think that Tom's story is tied up to the general canon of the Blacklist?
I don't know. I really don't know. I have said for a while, and I still say that I think Katarina's alive If she isn't, then I feel very, very misled on that. But if Katerina's alive, then I think Tom's story matters because that was so paralleled with the honey trap and the falling in love with the mark, and just the two stories were so paralleled that I feel like if Katerina's alive, then his story matters. And and I also we'll save our own wish list for the end.
How would you say about having a bit more Agnes as Misha wants?
I would love it, but I also don't think we'll see much of her. Kids are notoriously expensive to have on set, and it's I hope they mention her. I would say that I hope that Liz goes to see her and whatnot, but I don't think she will because I don't think she's in the space that she can. She's bent on revenge. She's angry. And she talked about that with Scotty. She said, she can feel it. She can sense it. And I don't want to put that on her. And so she's doing exactly what I think Red did and trying to put space to give that space and give the kid her best chance. And
when it's too late, she will not think that coming back to her, disrupt the happy life after traumatic events is going to be in her best interest.
Maybe
she would be too angry, like Red, not thinking that she can be a good parent.
I think it will depend on how far Liz goes. I mean, I see people on all sides of the fandom with various ideas of how far Liz should go. She should bow down at his feet and beg apology, or she should... I saw someone say today that she hoped that Liz stabbed the pin in the other side of the neck and let him bleed out. I was like, that's a bit intense, but okay. I can
report from Reddit that there is a lot of people on both sides. People who think that Liz should be more grateful, and people who say that man is a sociopath and somebody needs to stop him.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. On Tumblr, I've seen both sides of the story there. I probably fall a little somewhere in the middle. But yeah, we'll get to that along with our own opinions.
How about the decent answers?
Oh, yes. That's the one I said was very fair. I wasn't sorry. The decent answers is what I was cheering there because, yes, I would love decent answers. If we end this story, because I don't think NBC will cut something like The Blacklist off without giving them a chance to tie it up. And so I do believe that the Johns will have a chance to give their answers at the end. And I do, as many complaints as I've had over the last several months, or the last year or so, I do believe that Bokenkamp came into this knowing what his ending was and hasn't strayed from that. With his, I also don't think that his end game is a romantic thing. And so I know a lot of people go, oh, romantic end game. It's like, that's different. That is something that happens. Yeah, there's gonna, either her, she's alone in the end, or she's with someone else, or Tom's alive, or what have you. But that's not the end game. This story isn't there's romance in it, but I don't think the center of it is...
Who is Red and why is he doing this?
It's a story
about... What's his relationship to Liz? Yeah. What is he doing this?
Red and Liz are at the center of it. And so, yeah, I want decent answers, and I do think we will get... I do think we'll get them. If we're fully satisfied or not is going to depend on each individual. Because there are things that each person finds more important than the others. The writers have their things that they feel are important, while someone who's a wrestler fan may feel like if we don't touch on Tommy Markin again, this is not, that's not doing wrestler justice. Or with Red, if we don't touch on this, then that's not doing Red justice. Or if Tom's the rest of Tom's background isn't explained, and that's not doing Tom Keene justice. And, all of these things that's not doing the characters justice, we feel very strongly about that because those are our characters. That's, at least in part, a lot of people who are fans of the, very, very intense fans of the characters, like I am, we follow a lot of the story because of that. It very much influences the way we view the show. And so... decent answers is very subjective, a very subjective thing. And I think that we will get the answers that John set out to tell. I think we will get the story that he set out to tell by the end of it. If we agree with it or not, I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I do think that his answers will be there by the end. And I hope I'm not just being absurdly optimistic here, but networks have gotten a lot better in recent years. Even when they don't feel like their show is profitable, they will still...
It just has a better value at the end.
It does.
Because they can sell it as a package.
Exactly.
Instead of something that is going to leave your viewers really angry at the end doesn't quite mean like come back to NBC. Because then why are you going to keep watching something when the next time they're going to pull it under your feet? I might as well go to Netflix and watch something that I know has 8 episodes already there, and they tell me that they're going to finish the series like they did with House of Cards.
Exactly. There is a tendency to do that, to, whether it's true or not, well, they canceled my favorite show and left it open-ended and they screwed me on it. And it's a very emotional reaction, but it's one that a lot of us have, especially ones that get very deep in the fandom. I think that networks have just gotten better about, and especially for shows like The Blacklist that have been on about to be 6 seasons. And so at the end of season 6, that's a lot of episodes that have aired. That's a lot of time and effort. NBC now owns 50% of it. If they have not, if this is the final season, I think John knew that going in, whether they admitted it or not. If they didn't say that and they come to the end and it's a cliffhanger, I think that NBC will give them enough to finish. Mm-hmm. Enough to finish is what I'm going to say. I hate the filler episodes. I feel like we've had a lot of filler episodes, but I mean, it's a pacing thing. It'll work out in the end. I just want, just like our friend here, I want decent answers. And in the end, that's what's going to matter. I mean, I'm here for the mythology. So, all right. So the next individual, we've got someone else from Tumblr, PKJ's blog. I'm not sure I've actually had a whole lot of interaction with them, but they were like on the money when it came to responding. So kudos, person. I don't know if you're a guy or gal, but kudos. The 2 things that they mentioned. Yes. Wonderful human being. Wonderful human being. Thank you. So PKJ's blog said more Reddington and Agent Keen as a team, and just wants to survive the blacklist. And I had a note in here. I said that is such a mood. I just want to survive this. I feel like it's been such a roller coaster. I just want to get out of it alive.
And I'm gonna go out here and insert a personal anecdote today. I am probably these days far more active in Reddit than I am in Tumblr. And I was talking with somebody about the general moodiness prevailing nowadays because it's been so long. And I ended the answer to this friend with somebody that I've been corresponding probably since 2014. That at the end, the people who are looking at this as a puzzle they want to solve, we're going to be the ones in like shipwreck people, hanging on to a coffin and hoping to be picked up, to go with the theme that we have had about Ahab. So to see this of wanting to survive the blacklist it's interesting because there is a general feeling then that I am always interested to see how those things kind of pop at the same time. That we are we are almost in a shipwreck, and we're in a ship, and the ship is sinking, and not sinking in quality, not sinking in any of this, because I continue to be a big fan. Sinking in the sense that we're in this ocean with a storm that is brewing around the characters, and that is, it might take them down. It might be just like that scene where Liz takes down the plane, which was a totally crazy thing to do. But in a way, it feels that what the story is going is somewhere there. I mean, this is something that Liz is going to take this ship down. because secrets put people in harm's way.
Yes. Tom was right there. It feels
Mm-hmm.
like it feels almost like an open wound. I mean, like it just everybody's scared and it's draining and it's terrifying and so much could go so wrong so fast. And
then there is like little Aram and some Samar and Aram that are happy.
Oh
and
no,
the
no,
little-
no, that's where it gets dangerous. Don't be happy. That's where it's dangerous. Be careful, guys. Oh no, I joked that. I mean, that was one of the reasons I thought that we'd be wrapping soon was when Samar and Aram got together. Was because Bokenkamp had said it one.
They could kill them.
Oh gosh, don't say that.
Hey, they even said that they don't have a very good, history of writing happy.
No, John was like, I don't know. I think it was him that said that I don't know how to write happy couples, and I'm like, no kidding, buddy. Just stay away from
That's
my
why
couples.
he's my guy. I like happy couples in real life. I hate it in stories.
Oh no. I'm a big fan of
For happy couples, they love it.
teams hitting hard at outside stuff. But anyway,
So more Reddington and Agent King as a teen. That is basically season 3 and season 3A and 5A.
yeah, I am afraid, friend, that we may not get that very quickly. Maybe by the end, who knows? But I don't think that may be one of the more far-fetched things. Don't worry, I've got a far-fetched one too.
I have a feeling that at one point we may get like Liz and Jennifer ready to kill Red. And, they have him all gagged and all that. And so that he cannot speak and get them all confused. And then there's this voice that comes from, somewhere and says, girls. And it would be Katarina.
Nah.
So I think that definitely that was it was very rare to see them because even in season 1, they were working together, but there was that tension. There was like that flip-flop Liz that was happy and then she wasn't. And I think season 3 and 3A and 5A gave us that happy, which basically was when she thought, that either he was her father or that, he was protecting her and helping her.
She trusted him.
Yeah.
It's when she trusts him, and for good or for bad. I mean, and that's yet to be seen.
And there was 2 elements that overlap in season 3A and 5A. She trusted him, but she also was happy with Tom because it wasn't that long after when she realized Tom had come back and had a plan to do something. So I think that there was a sense that her life was in order, and she had a father figure that was looking after her. Cooper was looking after her in 3A, and it was looking after her in 5A too. And all that kind of exploded in her face, in 5B and 3B.
It's what happens in TV shows when you are happy. Watch out. 2 seconds later, everything's going to hit the fan.
All right. Sharon Crady said, Nora Darina, how you feel about that? Let's just get the elephant in the room and talk about it and get it out of the way. Because I think, that my thing was like the next season is going to be Redarina versus Lissington, and boy, I'm not happy about that.
Gosh, I just, my block is, there's a lot of people blocked in the fandom on Tumblr. I am not a Redarina fan. I honestly, I thought for a long time, when certain people were pushing it, I thought it was a joke. I thought it kind of became a shtick, something that you more or less believed because it was funny and it was a joke that got started and just, you owned it because it was your joke. Apparently I was wrong about that. And I will say
but
that
you leave some happy times.
I do live some happy times in my obliviousness. Sometimes I choose to be oblivious, I think, subconsciously. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure that was 5A for me, was choosing to be oblivious. Like, no, I had real reasons for believing Tom would live. Anyway, but but saying that, I disagree with Red Arena. I don't see those signs there. I just don't think it's a thing. But I believe anybody should be able to voice their opinions and their theories, and just be kind to each other, you know? Like, agreeing and disagreeing, like, you don't have to agree with every theory, because that's silly to expect people to agree with every theory just because it's yours. So.
Just be polite about it. I mean, honestly, when I first examined the theory, like I've examined, believe me, every single thing under the earth that have shown up in role reversal, in extraterrestrials, in time travel, Agnes K, Killer Baby, and you mentioned it. I've actually done a careful examination of what they say are clues and look at them. Because if you're a theorist, you're obliged to do that. If you really have to, you have to examine them all, whether you believe them or not, because sometimes we are biased.
I'm not a theorist. I'm a character development person, so...
Well, but I am, and I know that some of our listeners also come for theories. My objections to the arena have nothing to do with the worthiness of the idea. I think it would be a terrific idea. I think it would be awesome. But it cannot go against canon, and that's when you see the red herring. When you're, as I always say, Rederina runs against two giant walls on each side of concrete, polished granite with barbed wire on top, which is Kate. One of them is Kate knows and doesn't know at the same time in order for it to function. And the second one is that it goes against a lot of canon. For example, Red said he was married to Carla, and that cannot be taken as, oh, it's in character. No, that's a lie. Because then he lied to Liz. So then once you take out, he doesn't lie to Liz, you're left with nothing. So those are my objections to the theory. I do object to some people that are very rude and say that anybody who doesn't understand is biased or prejudiced or hate transsexuals. I think it would be as done as such for the purpose of hiding. I think it would be insensitive to transgender people who go through a lot of emotional pain in their lives. I don't think it is fun to watch something for which people suffer in real life be made into a pantomime of a charade of hiding. I think it's insensitive, and it shouldn't be done in this case or in any other case.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
So that's for Rederina. The second is Red relationship with Carla and Jennifer. And boy, those things do intrigue me, because that basically will prove whether I am right or so wrong.
Oh, yeah. I'm halfway through your, massive post. I need to find some time to finish it up because I have to have full focus when I'm looking at it. I can't just read between, various bouncing issues.
No, it's very verbose.
It is. It's very good. It's just, and anybody that's listened to the podcast for any length of time knows that I have been not a supporter of the Katarina is Carla and Carla's Katarina theory.
It's called Carlarina.
Carlarina. I'm sorry. Carlarina.
Now it has a name.
All right, we have a hashtag, everybody. Write it down. Hashtag it. Tessa's spoken. But, and so, I've never really been a fan of it, but as I was reading through it, I sent her a message on Tumblr and I said, I'm still not on board, but I see your logic. I said, it's definitely, I said, I see the steps you're taking. I see the path you're following. Because sometimes people, to them, it's logical. They're following a path. But when they say it to someone else, or at least when they say it to me, I'm just going, I feel like you missed 5 steps there. And I'm not sure how you got from A to M. Mm-hmm. And it makes sense in their head, and sometimes they just can't vocalize it and verbalize it, and sometimes there really are missing steps. It just depends on the situation. But
it's very hard because there's so many different things that collide.
It's oh goodness. I don't even know what to liken it to, but you know those carnival rides that zoom in and out of each other and move all up and down? I mean, that's sometimes how it feels like, except instead of being stuck to a center piece, sometimes it feels like they're
you're
just
gyrating in the air too.
yeah, it's everywhere. And like I said, I do think there's a central goal here. I do think we have an aim, and I do think that they're writing to it. I've had writers where I don't think so. I won't mention the story, but for anybody that's known me for any length, my last fandom before Blacklist, I am thoroughly convinced that writing team had no clue what they were doing for their ending. I remain at that. I do think the Johns know where they're going, and I do think Bo Kim does.
And definitely the relationship of Red with, and I'm talking about Red, the person, differentiated from Raymond Reddington.
Our Red.
Has to have, our Red has to have a relationship with Carla and Jennifer. I mean, that much was obvious. Man, I mean, you generally don't suck a punch to a guy that you have no relationship with. That was highly emotional, and the way he took it was also like, there you go again. It wasn't like, oh boy, I've never seen you do that.
Yeah,
WTF,
I
don't know you.
This random woman just punched me. Why?
Yeah, this was like, there you go again. So definitely I want answers about that, because that's one of the bookends of the story. One is Carla and Jennifer, and the other one is Katarina and Liz. And that is definitely where the story is kind of sandwiched between. So that's a good one. The other one is that Sharon Grady has is what happened at the Tacoma Park house. Did he just blow it because of memories of raising his family tormented him? Or did something terrible happen? And I think this is, where this is going. This is going into Red's story about the Bloody Christmas house. Was that house?
Yeah, and I love that. It's honestly, I've always trusted that. I don't know if I should or not, but I always, at least in part, I have always trusted it that he was, and I know I've seen people say, oh well, he wouldn't use his family like that to get it, get it a goal. Was that you? Okay, and I don't know, because Brett definitely has some sociopathic tendencies, and the means justify the end, or the ends justify the means, and if that's what he needed to get at, maybe he did let himself wander down that little path there, and because it was very emotional for him, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not willing to just write it off. It goes back to, from the writing perspective, you have such a select amount of time for everything you're writing. There has to be a purpose for everything. I've been listening to a podcast. I feel so proud of myself. I'm podcasting. I'm actually listening to another podcast. I feel like that never happened before. On script writing. And the two writers talk about a lot of times that you have to be very intentional with your writing, and that everything has to have a purpose because you have such limited space. And it's so true, especially for something as mythology heavy as The Blacklist is. You have to be intentional with every story that you're telling, with every prop that you're using, every little Easter egg that you drop. Even if you think that maybe 5% of your audience may notice on the first go around, you still have to be that intentional. And that's one thing that really bothered me when at the end of 5A, at 508, when I felt like I had misread, and Tess and I talked about this, I don't remember if we talked about it on air, but I know you and I talked about it privately, that I had been getting so much right just by reading the characters and reading the paths and where they were going, this and that. And I read that one so wrong that it jarred me so badly. I said, it's like throwing all the pieces up in the air. I don't know what's real and what's not in the story now. You have to be able to have faith in it to be able to understand where it's going. And I'm circling slowly back around. I'm getting there, guys.
I think that what and it's interesting, and I'm glad that Sharon got us into this path of discussing this, because one of the things that I've been looking at is, for a long time, I've been noticing the parallels between Tom and Red. And we've been talking about them in this podcast. I mean, I think that we even have 2 episodes devoted to Red and Tom and the parallels and the relationship that is fascinating. And, there were all kind of theories that went around, and I examined them all. I mean, I've even examined that Tom was actually Red's son.
I remember that one. That was a fun theory. I was never on board, but it was still fun.
It was a fun one. And what is very complicated when you have a show that has so much semiotics in it. Symbols are not a language like normal, like verbal language. If I say to you, I'm eating an apple, you get an immediate notion of what I'm saying. But if I have the language of symbols is putting an apple and then another apple and showing you apples all the time, and you have to work out what that symbol means, what that is pointing to. Is that a clue? Is that a reminder? Like every once in a while I'll show you an apple to tell you got to keep this apple in mind, because at one point this is going to be important, because that's something you do when you write. You have themes and that you put in there, and you keep them. They may not be significant, like the ring in Crispin Crandall that had a ring of the Navy, but it still keeps the ring in mind.
You have to have an anchor for where you're going, a goalpost for where you're going, and something to aim to, and to be able, your truths. For the longest time, Red doesn't lie to Liz was a truth of this story. I think that as we've gone on, whether they'll admit it or not, it may be an intention of the writers to keep that a truth, but I don't think in reality it is true. But I think Red believes it's true. I think Red 500% believes it's true. Maybe that's what they mean, is that Red believes he never lies to Liz. And I think that completely he would think that his wordsmithing absolves him from any accusations of lying.
It's what he has to do, because he's at heart an honest man. And an honest man who has to keep secrets. And when you have to keep secrets and you hate to lie, you talk like that. So here it is. I think that the Tacoma Park house is not that house, because I don't think that house existed as people think. And that's what I was going with the parallels. Tom is an undercover agent. I think Red was trained by the Major. And so if you think, cast your mind back to when in Redemption, when Tom has the fake wife and he gives that moving story of falling in love with her, that was probably had parts of truth to it. Probably it has someone else. He fell in love with Liz, and then he took an element here that was right, because that sells the lies, and then compounded with something else and created. It was moving. It was wow. I did believe that.
I immediately went and wrote the backstory, the one shot that I added to my Keen Squared one shots of Liz and Tom and the snow and all of that. Yeah, no, exactly. I'm convinced that the story actually had to do more with Liz than anything else. I agree. Yeah. Because you have to. You have to take elements, to be an effective liar, to be an effective operative, you have to take seeds of truth and build off of those. Otherwise, you get, that's the difference between, the good and the bad on there. Is that the bad liars get tangled up in the tangled webs we weave, sort of thing, where they tangle themselves up and they get caught in their lies, and they tell, they give themselves away.
The more you get true to the truth, the better you are as you go along, because there is less things to forget what you said to whom.
Exactly.
But so that story, if you really examine it, had 3 parts. And I think that Red remembered something that happened running out of gas, walking in the snow. That part is true. And it was very moving because it was a cherished memory that he had of a happy time. Then he basically hijacks Liz's words when he finds Tom with Zamani. There was blood. There was blood everywhere. That's all she could see was blood. And then it's just the memory of him and this daughter and the hand in the cheek, which, by the way, went to the hand in the cheek when Liz died. He put her hand in his cheek and told her not to go. So I don't know that is true. And I think that is a moment when you realize what an amazing covert operative Red is.
Yeah.
And there he was. He was a fake kidnapping, fake torture. I don't know if you noticed, but he was really padded. So when they used the taser, he didn't feel anything. So everything was a charade. And then, that wasn't that important. He could have just take this woman to Cooper, and they would have got. I mean, Wrestler would have got the truth out of that. Just get a little. She wasn't that tough that way. So I don't know, but it's a very interesting question, and I definitely want an answer to that.
Agreed.
Was Red a Russian spy or a CIA agent or double agent that got left out in the cold at the end of the Cold War? I love this question.
I knew you would. As soon as because I put together the notes this afternoon after work, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh,
Jenny's so organized.
Tess is going to love this one.
Yeah, that is definitely. I want to know this. I tend to think he is not a CIA, Russian spy. The CIA, I tend to think not, but who knows? I mean, as he says,
naval intelligence.
Attractive but treacherous. I do think that I think that he is Reddington. But definitely I think that it is entirely possible that he went in the academy already looking for spies within the academy. So he could very well be an FBI, a CIA agent. They're attractive but treacherous. And I think Katerina was CIA, so there you go, attractive and treacherous.
Maybe that's exactly what he was talking about. Oh, I miss Mira. I miss Mira so much. Like, I understand why she had to go, but I really wish we'd gotten to know her better. I know that sounds weird, because when you get to know someone better, you don't want to let them go, but I don't know. There were so many questions about Mira. And I remember at the time that they talked about that they actually did want to delve further into her past. They just ran out of time. But they knew she had to die. I mean, and the end of season 1 is such a huge milestone in a show, because you have to heighten the stakes so much. And so, like, I get that she had to go in that, and like, it was very well done. It was very well written, and to this day, season 1 is just like, it was just so tight and so amazing. But I wish I had known more about Mira. I really do.
Oh, I think I do. And I think she was Peter's spy.
I actually used that years ago. And it was Everything Back to You. That huge AU where I swapped Liz's and Tom's backgrounds.
The one I can't read.
Yeah, I know. It's okay. I'm picking out pieces for Codename Gray, so you're getting the good parts. It's fine. The parts
without the confusion.
Yeah, you're getting the parts that were like 110% mine out of it, and so. But no, I actually used that in there, in which Mira was working for the CIA and Peter tried to bring her in, and she told Cooper, she said, hey, my loyalty is to this team, and he went, okay, well, let's use this, and they basically sent her in as an undercover operative with the Cabal.
Yeah, Mira, I don't know if a lot of people know this. Certainly everybody who has read my blog assiduously, but again, there are over 4,000 posts, and none of them are short posts. So Mira spent her life as a covert agent in the CIA. That means that technically she was under Peter.
Oh, she had to have been.
Yeah, and Diane was not aligned with Peter. Diane was aligned and was not aligned with Fitch, aligned with Peter because she put Mira in there. So those are the interesting little tidbits that I also hope that we get the story and it ties up to this, what is really going
Well,
on.
they did
because this is not what it seems.
They did bring Mira back up in season 5 when they were out at Nick's funeral. They made sure to bring her back up. And, at the time I thought it was just a nice nod for the audience, to go, hey, remember Mira? We loved Mira, But you may be right. They may be working that in. And they play the long game in this. Sometimes longer than I feel like they maybe should for a TV show. It's almost like, and Bokenkamp comes from a movie background. I actually went and looked up his IMDb credits.
It's like a miniseries kind of mindset.
He's not even a miniseries. He's a movie guy. He has several movies to his name, either story by or I think he did scripts on several things. I'd have to go back and look on the definites. But this is his, and I think I had heard that. I'd read that somewhere that this was his first TV show, and that's why they paired him with Eisendrath and this and that, which is fantastic. That's so great that they do that.
I love the combination. It's a good marriage.
Oh, absolutely, they did very well. But anyway, what I was gonna say was that may be the reason we have this, where it feels a bit longer than maybe it should in TV, is because he's used to working in movies. I mean, I get it coming from books. I do certain things in. Tessa's been reading my scripts for my TV show that I'm writing, and I keep getting notes back going, this would be great for a novel, not for a TV show, Jen. And that's kind of the same thing, is that you have certain things that you do for the genre you're used to working with, the type of writing you're used to working with, and some of those things linger over, whether, no matter how hard I don't want to say fight them, because I don't think that's the right word, but no matter how hard you work to work within the parameters of your new set there, you're going to have things that made you, that formed you as a writer, linger over.
And which maybe end up being your strength, because what Bokenkamp is doing is he's creating basically an open-ended miniseries. He's doing a miniseries where he knows the beginning and he knows the end, and then there is this accordion in the middle that can be made smaller or bigger.
That's TV shows in general. I mean, whether the network knows your ending or not, the writer should always know their ending. If they don't, then something's wrong.
But there are things that, like the Chicago franchise, that don't really have an ending. I mean, what's the ending?
No,
I mean, they're going to be relationships and things, but episodic things don't tend to have an ending.
Okay, let me rephrase that. For
like the Americans,
well, it's serialized versus
that other one.
Procedural. Serialized versus procedural. And so serialized would be like Chicago Med, Chicago Fire, that sort.
No, that's procedural.
No, you're right. Procedural is basically where it starts and stops at the end of the episode. Serialized is like the Americans, where it's this long arcs that are going, and the Blacklist is considered a hybrid. And so they have their procedural elements to it, in which they have their blacklister, the bad guy of the week, and they start and stop that episode. They finish it up, whether the guy gets away, whether they arrest him, whether he dies, etc., etc. But they also have these longer character arcs that are much deeper and delve more into mythology than something like the Chicago series or any of the Wolf Dick Wolf shows would, any of those. And so the hybrids have become much more popular recently. That's been a thing. And
they cater to an audience that is generally more educated, that is also older and following and able to follow something from week to week. For which sometimes I feel that the Blacklist really improves when you watch it, when you binge watch.
It does.
I mean, you catch a lot of things, and over the week you just forget. But there is another element that makes a Blacklist a and I don't I haven't watched all the Americans because I started watching the Blacklist, and I can only do one crazy thing at a time, and never again a fandom. But the Blacklist functions not just in the procedural element, and then on top of that there is the serialized element, but the Blacklist have also an underlying themes of that are not common to find in shows, and which required an enormous amount of energy for the writers, because you are basically asked them to put certain elements in every episode. You have every episode has something that brings back Russia or the Soviet Union. Every episode will have, or a large majority of episodes would have, a child in danger. You have also clues that come up fairly often: apples, hair. There's those little things make it incredibly complicated to write and keep those symbols straight. The camera work, from the promo pictures, the colors used in the shots, whether the mirrors that appear everywhere, water as a symbol for red, and they put it everywhere. So that to me it's indicative that whatever we are going to get answers, we are going to get answers. But they cannot give you a definite answer about anything without giving the whole thing away. And that's why they pixelate it. They bring a few pixels and they give you something. Get back. Let's remember the fire. But your memories may be messed up. Red is her father. But he's not Reddington. So they always do this take and give and take away that I find it to be fascinating. And that brings us to our last question. How did Red get the burns on his back from there? I so want to know that, Sharon. You have no idea.
Yeah.
Because those were serious burns.
And they are. And it had to put him into the hospital or at least, yeah, potentially a coma. Oh my God, overdo the coma. Don't overdo the coma. What was it?
Liz had a coma for a reason.
Yeah, but then we had some more immediately following. Comas are just overdone and not often done well in TV writing. It's rough. When you,
but it's handy.
It is handy. It is. I mean, and I may eat the words. Believe me, I may eat the words. Because, it's funny when...
You're already knowing it. I mean, I can see it in your face. You guys can't see Jen's face. But she's already knowing that, oh, no.
It's like, honestly, I will never go back and re-listen to our podcast. Because, especially, God willing that my show Codename Grey ever gets, off the ground and gets picked up somewhere, I'm going to eat so many words when I get to LA. I mean, even if I'm just on a writing team of things that I was so high and mighty about, I'm going to look back and go, oh, well, all right then. That was stupid. I was ignorant, wasn't I? And I will have been. It will have been just as long as I really don't have the hubris to think that any of the writing team and or anybody from the Blacklist listen to us. But if they do, please know that anything I'm getting wrong on writing, on the writing rounds and the character development rounds and that, it is out of ignorance. And I do have the utmost respect for you guys. So that's going to wrap us up for our first half of our 67th episode of Keen Minds, the Season 6 wish list. So Part A, you can find us on SoundCloud. I'm out of practice here. You can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube, and catch us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Tumblr.
And we'll see you next week for the next one.
Yes, goodbye.